I think. Good evening, everyone. This is Leslie Wright. I'm from the Zonta Club of Brooklyn, and we are going to this evening be sharing our meeting time with Nia Alvarez, who is in charge of the coalition that's working to pass this amendment to the New York State Constitution. And the New York State Constitution will allow us to have a great number of opportunities for being able to, I don't want to say here, to be able to guarantee rights for women and for other groups of people that don't currently have rights written into the Constitution. So we wanted to make sure, since the Equal Rights Amendment has been stalled, we're waiting for the Equal Rights Amendment on the federal level to be to have the deadline removed by Congress. And once that happens, then all of the requirements will have been met for the Equal Rights Amendment to be able to become part of the United States Constitution. So at this point, I would like to introduce Nia, who is here from the coalition, as I mentioned. She'll say a few words about herself and then go right into share. I will share the screen and we will go through her presentation. So Nia, while I'm setting up the screen sharing, would you like to introduce yourself?
Certainly. Hello, everyone. My name is Nia Alvarez-Mapp. I go by she, her, Aya. I am the organizing director for New Yorkers Equal Rights. I am so happy to be here and to talk with you all. It must be extremely exciting considering how we just came out of an election year. And we actually not election year, we just came out of election day and we're getting ready to go into our particular election for next year in regards to this ballot proposal. I just wanted to make sure that everyone can see me in a proper manner. Sorry, give me 1 second. Perfect. So I'm a part of this organization called New Yorkers Equal Rights. If you can go to the next slide, please, Leslie. The two people that you mainly will be associating yourselves with this particular ballot proposal, as well as this organization campaign, is my campaign director, Sasha Jua, and myself, Nia Alvarez-Mapp, who is the organizing director, who will be working with you and other organizations and stakeholders and grasstops and grassroots coalitions to be able to let everyone know as much as they possibly can about this ballot proposal. For the purpose of this presentation, I'm really going to converse with you all in regards to just what the education is, how the ERA is different from the federal versus the New York State, and what we're hoping to do, as well as things that you all can possibly do as we get closer to November 24th. And as you can see in the next slide, the question is, what is New Yorkers Equal Rights? Well, a few while ago, essentially there has been a resolution as well as a policy that was passed under Assemblymember Rebecca Seawright and folks in New York State Capitol, which has been passed. And now, if you go to the next slide, it essentially is explaining how it's going to be part of the Equal Rights Amendment for New York that is going to be officially codified into the New York State Constitution, that adds explicit protections for people who experience discrimination at any moment in time, that also enhance already existing discrimination policies in New York or have not been explicitly said within those discrimination policies as well. With this work, with the policy, the resolutions being passed, it officially is now going to be a part of the ballot of November 24, which tends to be for the presidential run. And if you can just go past the next two slides, Leslie, please. Yes, so as you can see here with the work of the ballot issue committee, the New Yorkers for Equal Rights ballot proposal will be on next year's general election, November election day of 2024. So moving forward, what does that particularly entail for us? Well, it's simple. If you go to the next slide. We, again, as I mentioned before, it is going to add enhance existing laws in regards to discrimination against race, religion, and as well as specifically prohibit discrimination on persons' ethnicity, national origins, age, disabilities, and sex, including sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, pregnancy and pregnancy outcomes, and reproductive health care and autonomy. You know, when we talk about the federal version of the ERA, we know it's mainly for words as regards to reproductive rights. However, much like in the national version, it also sort of expands on regards to just particularly women's rights. However, I would say in our statewide ERA proposal, we are trying to expand as much of the underrepresented classes in New York State that goes without saying should be protected, but we wanted to make sure we have extra insurance to ensure that their protections are being met within New York State's region. So if you can see on to the next slide, what does that particularly mean? It is just sort of a more legal protection. So we are still so as I said, in regards to education, we're still sort of trying to define what does that mean. However, that does mean like in regards of just making sure that no stones are left unturned in regards to protections, and especially within your organization. So, and there might be sort of sub-ethnic or ethnic groups within your groups of women organizing that we will be further protected from already existing bills. And if you go into the next slide, and
sorry.
no problem at all. And if you're really asking, well, aren't those protections already covered in our Constitution? Yes, and right. New York State is explicitly about in regards to race and religious discrimination. However, in the highest courts, as you can see here, it doesn't really go into the full extent of which people may or may not think of what is considered protected under New York State, which is why we saw in my earlier slide in conversation, such as national origins or old age do not have certain protective clauses within New York State. And if you can continue forward, please, Leslie. So, and this is sort of what we gathered in regards to just hearing from New Yorkers in regards to protections based off our own research and pollings that we have done. So moving forward a little bit. So to support the launch for New Yorkers ERA Rights, we have done a survey in regards to commissioned by Global Strategies in late 2024. My apologies, in late 2023. And here's sort of what we found of last May. So we do, so a lot of, even though when we tend to think New York State is a very progressive or liberal area, which is heavily protected under those, relatively speaking, may be protective, again, there seems to be a lot of serious and prevalent problems when it comes to discriminations of certain times that do not particularly have protections within the full extent of the law, which is something we're trying to change. Keep going, please, Leslie. And again, making sure that all rights are being protected equally, as well as fighting discrimination should be a high priority within your leadership. And if you can keep going, yeah. And then also, there's just, lack of better words, there is still an uncertainty within New York State that there isn't enough accessibility in health in regards to things such as birth control, abortion rights, voting rights, marriage rights, and protection against workplace discrimination, which is something that we are hoping for in this. No, you're not replaced. Yeah. So as we continue on seeing the slides, like you're saying, in these regards, a lot of these slides and this conversation is really just expanding more on already existing laws or existing problems that haven't really particularly been put into laws in place. And if you can keep going forward, please. Yes, two more.
This one?
Yes. No, the one before that.
Here?
Yes. So as well as seeing with the surveillance and what's going on within 71% of New Yorkers in regards to discrimination between national origins, regardless of whatever your perspective is, and going into the next point, receiving positively to protect for all cultures and ethnicities. So what I mean when I put in regards to the ethnicities of immigration, this also goes into further depth on what we see as culture, and also in furthering away from discrimination in regards to just national origins as well as ethnicities, and to also branch off the discrimination of all type of racial nationalities and backgrounds. And then two more slides as well, Leslie. This also applies to LGBTQ people within the LGBTQ plus community, and especially in the public sector. And then next slide as well. Making sure, no, you're in right with the, yes. And again, emphasize again that making sure everyone is being treated equally, especially when it comes to age discrimination, as well as those within the disability context of New York State. So moving forward. So I spewed a lot of information right there, but what we're just really trying to do, and I cannot emphasize this enough, is to ensure that all protections, especially in underrepresented communities in New York State, are being protected, and making sure that we are in a highly bipartisan place within New York State to make sure all those who feel like they've not been fully represented are represented and are protected under the same law within New York State's region. And yes, so this is where you come in when you see the path to victory. Oh, keep going, Leslie, yeah. Yeah, forward.
Sorry, it keeps slipping back. There we go.
Yes. So I'm going to be relatively candid. New York, we are hoping and I'll be candid, both will be really honest with you. As you see within these, I'll say past few elections around New York, around the United States, issues in regards to this policy have been highly favored. However, in regards to New York, it has been these past few recent years, it has sort of been in regards of a battleground state, which again amends into where we sort of do a concentration in full transparency, do a concentration around downstate of New York City, Mid-Hudson Valley, and Long Island, because based off of population. And if you go to the next slide, Leslie, I will explain to you why. Although we in New Yorkers Equal Rights are going to have a robust and fully comprehensive field organizing strategy throughout the entire New York State region, and I cannot, like in regards to just upstate and more than upstate, like in the rural areas of New York, as well in the Albany, Buffalo, as well as Mid-Hudson Valley, and as well as Long Island and New York City. We are also not dismissive in that at the end of the day, based off of population and density, these are the highest percentages of those who vote, which tend to be in the downstate regions of both Mid-Hudson Valley, New York City, and Long Island. So if you go, yes. And it has shown in modules, and has shown in the modules that these are of the 69% supporters likely going to be able to help get out the vote. That doesn't mean that we're not going to concentrate on other areas and regions. It just means that those are the areas and regions most likely going to get out and vote, which is why we also really want to emphasize for you in all parts of the states to be able to help your fellow neighbors to be fully aware of the comprehension to make sure that they're voting as well. As well as acknowledging that New York electorate is a racially diverse, and at the end of the day, 1/3 of our winning coalition are voters of color. As you can see in the next slide that Leslie's going to show you, that the percentage of votes, although 70% are white, are also making up in the mixture of 6% AAPI, 12% Latinos, and 11% Black population going out to vote as well. Moving forward as well, thank you. You were in the right, yeah, forward.
There we go.
No, you're doing a wonderful job, Leslie, yeah. No, yep, perfect.
We haven't had a chance to practice this, so bear with us. Whoops, this one.
Yes, so, and in wrapping sort of things up, what we are also expecting within the next year is that 8.5 million New Yorkers who have been voted in the 2020 election, we're expecting that plus an additional, I believe, 3% in that voting as well. And we're also expecting a more high voter turnout, although at the same time, it could be moving here and there as we get closer to November. So, but we are expecting approximately even higher, 8.5 million people to be able to go and vote in the general election, as you can see in the next slide. We are expecting in the next general election, which is going to be the next big top ticket, which is between most likely President Biden and whoever his opponent is going to be in the general. We are expecting 9 million people to be able to vote as well. which also, again, emphasizing again the points that have been mentioned earlier in regards to New York State's voter demographic. So, yep. So moving forward. No, next one. So what we're hoping to do within New York Equal Rights, but we're also hoping from your organization as well, is to sort of continue that transformative outreach and engagement that makes New York such a great place to vote at the end of the day, which means, again, reproducing the same democratic, most likely not democratic performances from 2020 and 2022, but even higher, mitigating negative regions and demographic trends and voting patterns that have occurred in 2022, and also run up the score of New York City and immediate surrounding counties and focus on persuasion, not only, of course, in Mid-Hudson Valley and Long Island, but in areas that may or may not be surrounded by challenging states within New York State.
Whoops.
So what's next, essentially, and Leslie was a little bit ahead of me when it came to that. We are going through a current timeline in a glance where I am currently going around different organizations such as yourself to do education and to explain the deep research, and then hoping by the time of the summer for your organization and others to do voter education within your areas and communities, so that by the time of November 2024, we are able and ready to go to support the ERA for next year. So what is the next steps that I'm asking for you guys is essentially this. And I hope and invite your members to come and meet us in our next, to come invite us into our next meetings, help us engage in additional organizations across the state, and of course, affirm your support for New York Equal Rights and your social media and digital platforms. And if you can go to the next slide, please, Leslie. Come join our next Grass Top Leadership meeting on November 17th, where we're also going to do a post-election conversation and debriefment from other areas that have been also been fighting for the ERA or ERA equivalent laws around the United States yesterday. So I repeat that again, if you are curious more about our campaign, please, and again, I'll be happy to share parts of this presentation. I'll be happy to share this presentation with Leslie for you all to send out as well, is to one, join our campaign, form your organization support, which we will be happy to give you in regards to any social medias or platforms that you use, and to send out for your newsletters. Invite me to more meetings. I will, as we get closer to the GOTV primaries coming of November, there's more information that's gonna be shared. There's more things that needs to be done that I'm sure you're all also curious about yourself. And also join us for our post-election November 17th Grass Top Leadership meeting. And really just thank you. And if you have any questions, let me know.
Great. So thank you, Nia. That was really quite a lot that was said in a very short period of time. Do we have any questions? And I'm hoping that maybe Catherine can do something on campus with this information. I'm going to be sharing the recording, and I think that would be excellent to be able to share it in Rochester as well. And Joan, I'm counting on you to try to get this out to the other clubs so that they can also share with all of this. I'm going to, at this point, stop the recording.